Hello everybody, Incon coming at you with another God Guide. Today we have got Artio. We are going to be playing her in the support role. Looks like we're probably going to be against a Ymir and a Woojer. I'm going to go ahead and get us a ranked up sprint to try to counteract some of those Ymir slows in the laning phase. I'm going to get my 4 health potions in my Hand of the Gods. As far as our ability that we're going to get first, they've got a pretty mobile ADC. When they've got an immobile ADC, I like to get my 3 first. But when I feel like we're not going to win the lane clear, when I feel like we're not going to be able to go for an early kill, I like to get my 1 first. It is just the better clearing option for Artio. As far as our leveling order for Artio, we're going to get a point in all 3 of our abilities, but we are going to level our 1 to max first, then we are going to level our 3 to max, then we are going to level our 2 to max, and finally we're going to level our ulti. You can get a couple of points in the ulti if you so desire. There's nothing wrong with that. It gives you some HP 5 and movement speed, but for the most part I find that I don't need that MP 5 and movement speed that much. Sometimes just like a point or 2 in it can be a good thing though. For our Artio, we've got our 1. Artio is a stance switching god. In fact, the first stance switching god that we have now played for these guides. So she has 2 different forms of her 1. She has the bear version of her 1, which is a very high damage version of this ability. So it is going to swing her bear claws back and forth in the same cone area in front of her, and it is going to do quite a bit of damage. Her 1 in her druid form, we can look for this Ymir. I'm gonna freeze him. Okay.
They think they can run.
Nice try. That's a shell down. Her 1 in her druid form is also a cone in front of her. Not only does it do damage, but it is also a potential heal. Now the heal on Artio's 1 in her druid form only procs if you hit an enemy god with the ability. It won't proc on minions. And it heals yourself and nearby allies that are within 55 feet. So it won't, like, you know, heal the Osiris or anything, but it'll heal my Jingwei, who's kind of sitting here with me. As far as what you're looking to do as an Artio in lane, you are looking to be a lane bully. You've got many abilities, so think about kind of like how Hel and Arthur and careful. And these other gods are lane abilities because they have so many things that they can do early game. Same exact concept with Artio. You're going to want to go ahead and abuse your clear early. We even ended up out pushing an Woojer Ymir, which is a very good clear lane. Make sure, of course, you're not getting those last hits as a support, so you're getting your Guardian's Blessing stacked, and so you make sure that your Hunter is getting their stacks as well. Level 3, I'm going to get a point in my 2. You can feel free to get a second point in your 1 if you feel like it is necessary here. I like to have the option for my 2 because Artio 2 is a great ability. So now that we've talked about the 1, let's go ahead and talk about Artio 3. Artio's 3 in her druid form is this channeled ability that you can of course be interrupted out of, like we just saw. And if you land every single tick of the ability, it roots your target. So every single tick is going to heal only yourself, not your allies. Your 1 heals allies, your 3 does not.
Stay back, stranger.
And if you land every single tick on a target or multiple targets, potentially, it will go ahead and root them for, I do believe it is 1 second. Don't quote me on that though. They are 1 second, rooted for 1 second. Okay, I was right. I was like, don't quote me on that. I haven't actually read through that whole ability in a while. Artio's 3 in her bear form is going to be a dash forward, which I can go ahead and use. I'm on Woojer right now, haven't lit. Oh gosh. That's a great shout. You can see the damage output that Artio potentially has. I think I'm gonna be okay here. Just gonna keep walking back down the lane. So Artio's 3 in her bear form is a dash. It is a line dash that works kind of like Chiron dash. So for those of you that have played Chiron, you need to kind of know how you can move it a little bit, but not necessarily a lot of it. Kind of works like that. It does damage upon hitting somebody, and upon hitting somebody, it also slows them for 2 seconds, and that slow ranks up as you rank up the ability, much like the way the heal ranks up as you rank up the ability. Artio's ulti is pretty easy. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but Artio's ultimate, it's her stance switch. You can obviously, you have it at level 1, so you don't have to put a point into it to necessarily switch back and forth between your druid and your bear stances. When you, the active for that ability is that you can switch your stances. Yeah, that makes sense. The passive with it is that if you have it points put into it, you passively gain that MP5 and movement speed, much more MP5 than you gain movement speed, which of course checks out. Artio 2. Artio 2 is her most complicated ability. And you can see me trying to use it right there to save my Jingwei, but not quite. Artio's 2, once again, like all of her abilities, has 2 different things that it does. In her bear form, it is a baseline 1 second stun. I like to get Shoes of Focus on Artio. Artio's got so much mana consumption and so many abilities that I like to get a little bit of cooldown early on her. You can also get yourself reinforced shoes if you feel it's necessary. So Artio's bear stun is 1 second at regular level, and then it goes all the way up to 1.4. And you also increase your own physical and magical protections from 10 to 30, and that is for each physical and magical protections after you click the ability. For her druid stance 2, probably one of the better abilities in Smite, actually. I'm using it right now. This is a cripple. So this Artio, that Woojer could not use his jump. And it is a long cripple. So this ability is at baseline 4 seconds. It is a 4-second cripple around your area, just kind of like it's basically the same size as the sun. When enemies are standing within that area, they are crippled, meaning they cannot use movement abilities. So Fenrir Brutalize, Arthur Spinning, Woojer Jump, whatever the movement ability may specifically be. Also, inside of that Artio Druid Form 2, you also reduce the enemy's power. So I need to get out of here. This is way too greedy. We need to get out. Also, inside of the area, you reduce their magical and their physical power as long as they are standing in the area. And this is actually a percentage debuff. So this gets very, very good at the later stages of the game. It becomes a 25% power debuff to whoever is in that circle. Starts off at 5%. So really, in the early levels, it's not that relevant. So this is why we level up in this order. 1 for the clear and the player damage. It's also a heal. Then our 3 to max because it is a slow that ranks up, as well as another good damaging ability. We rank up our 2 third because by this point we should be getting into team fights, and we're going to want a longer stun, a longer cripple, and all of the effects that come with it. And then of course for the ulti, you know, it's just not that important to have MP5 and movement speed, as long as you've got a okay build going for your character.
There are predators in these woods. Enemy
I'm gonna start rotating towards mid lane. I've got my Guardian's Blessing stacked. Once you get your Guardian's Blessing stacked, really on any support, you should start feeling free to rotate around the map. That's basically your green light to start leaving the lane, is that, hey, I got my Guardian's Blessing stacked. Guardian's Blessing gives you that bonus gold every gold gaining iteration every 5 seconds. So you can feel free to run around without losing on too much farm. For our starting build, you're going to recognize the starting build. I'm a firm believer that pretty much all supports should have a pretty similar start to their build. That is either Shoes of Focus or Reinforced Greaves right now. Reminder that Talaria Boots recently did get nerfed a little bit. Followed up by a Gauntlet of Thebes. I think that Gauntlet of Thebes is the best support item in the game. I don't think you can ever go wrong with it. After you get those items, it becomes a little bit more opened up. You don't have to follow any strict path after that. All I would recommend is that you definitely, at some point, get yourself a Relic Dagger to make sure that you are getting the utilization effect out of the Relic Dagger. Minus 40 seconds on your Relic cooldowns is just such an amazing effect for a support who's trying to cast things like Shell and Sprint and Blink and all sorts of good stuff. I'm going to rotate over to the solo lane. I just saw Hades dash in. I'm going to come over. We might be able to do something here. I actually don't see him at all.
Be right back.
He's still in the lane. He's going to heal up a lot. But we can try. Stun it. Oh, gosh. Oh, my goodness. So by heal up a lot, I mean he's going to heal up to full, and you're going to get one shot. So that's a bummer. I'm actually potentially dead here as well. I'm going to stun this Robin and try to walk away. That is a really big Hades. That's my bad. I did not realize this guy is level 12 at this point. That was a bad call to go look back at that Hades. Good kill from Osiris though. Good play, friend. So right now I'm basically running around the map. Once you get your Guardian's Blessing stat, you're really looking to be almost like a second jungler. Not entirely. Like, don't steal all of your jungler's farm. You want to split a lot of farm with people. Splitting farm in Smite is a more XP, more efficient XP differential. So it kind of is hard to explain, but basically, if you're by yourself and you get farm, you get 100% of the XP for that mob, which makes sense. But if you have two people that are getting credit for a mob, you actually each get, if I recall correctly, they had changed the number at one point. I do believe you each get 60% of the farm, meaning that you basically got 120% XP for that camp. I'm gonna stun this Robin. I have the cripple around me. Bada bing, bada boom. There you go. Nice little easy pickups right there. I've got enough gold for my Gauntlet of Thebes, so I am going to absolutely back up right now, get that Gauntlet of Thebes, get a Sentry Ward. Make sure you're pretty much buying a Sentry Ward every single time that you back on support. Obviously, if you have to buy an item to get it started and you can't afford it, you got to do what you got to do. But I generally recommend trying to get that. Artio's passive. We didn't actually talk about her passive. Enemy gods hit by Artio's Druid or Bear damaging abilities begin to decompose. The effect decreases their physical and magical protections, and these effects stacked. So the more abilities you use on somebody, the more you're going to take away some of their armor. This is a 2% protection debuff, and you can actually have it stacked up to 8 times. Now, it only lasts for 4 seconds, so you have to make sure that you're refreshing it pretty constantly. But you can actually have a 16% protection debuff, and that applies for physical and magical protections on the enemies in a team fight just by hitting them with your abilities, which is very, very nice. Reminder that while I don't necessarily need to avoid getting last hits, because I've got my Guardian's Blessing stacked, I have started my Gauntlet of Thebes, so I'm definitely going to need stacks for that. So I'm once again kind of back on the AFK farming grind, trying to get to wave. I'm basically right now just trying to maximize my stacks by going from one wave to the next wave without missing out on too much farm. I'm going to get rid of this ward. We've got good ward coverage out for potential ganks coming this way. I'm going to look at I can't. I wanted to look at Ymir because he has no getaway skill. But you can't always go for the target that you want to go for. Your job as Artio is a little bit of twofold. Your job is to, one, be aggressive. She's a very good aggressive support. Not as straightforward aggressive as like an Ares, right? Ares is pretty much all aggression and no nuance on that front. That is not necessarily the case for Artio. Artio is a lot more nuanced. So while she does have the aggression potential that somebody like an Ares can put out, she's also got very good peel. She has a stun. She has a cripple. She's got self-sustain, right? She heals herself on her 3. She heals herself and her team potentially on her 1. So you have a 2-pronged job. I wish I could tell you to just do one of the other, but I can't do that because that would be a lie. You have 2 jobs in Artio depending on the exact team fight, the exact situation, and that is you are both in charge of initiation and peeling.
Be right back.
So that's going to depend on your team comp, their team comp, how far you're ahead, how far they're ahead. All of those kind of things factor in. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and play this actually a little bit more as a defensive Artio. One, I'm feeling confident in my Discordia and Jingwei to output a lot of damage where I don't need to. So I'm going to focus a little bit more on peeling this game than I'm going to focus on initiating. And another reason why I am going to be doing that is because we have a Ratatasker and an Osiris.
Thanks.
Osiris and Ratatasker are both good at initiating themselves, so I shouldn't be the one that has to do that. I'm going to pop a shell for my Jingwei, plus I'm going to give him a heal from my 1 while I'm rooting this Ymir. There we go. Gonna rotate back over and chase with my Ratatasker towards this Uller, but I want to make sure I don't leave my Jingwei behind by herself. So I'm actually gonna pass back into the lane just to make sure that she is okay. I'm gonna call for the Gold Fury, which is a little bit of a risky call, but I'm at full HP. We know that there's 2 people over right lane, so the only person that can be here potentially is going to be that Scylla. Obviously, Scylla's got very good secure, so she could potentially steal this, but I'm confident with our ward coverage. We see her over in the mid lane. Bada bing, bada boom. We acquire the Gold Fury. Now that I've got my Thebe stacks, I extra super don't have to worry about last hits. And I won't be getting another stacking item this game, at least in terms of minion stacking, so I don't have to worry about that for the rest of the game, which is nice at the 16-minute marker. It is now my job with the Gold Fury down to make sure that I go get a ward over by the Fire Giant. So I'm going to finish up my Relic Dagger. We talked about it earlier. Relic Dagger gives you movement speed, cooldown, HP, and most importantly, reduces the cooldown of your relics by 40 seconds each. That way I can Heavenly Agility my team more often. That way I can shell my team more often. So I'm going to walk over to this Fire Giant. I'm going to try to make sure that there's a ward, preferably a sentry ward, on the Fire Giant at all times. Before the 15-minute marker, it's not super crucial that you have the Fire Giant warded. Most people are not going to do it before then. Most team comps can't do it before then. After the 15-minute marker, though, it is fair game for burning the Fire Giant. You have one bad fight, they can sneak it right on in. And also, particularly, pay attention to the Fire Giant. If you're going against gods like Merlin, like Anubis, gods that are really good at burning the Fire Giant, there's a huge party coming left. Or if you're against junglers and hunters building crit, gods like Mercury, Jingwei, stuff like that, very good. I'm going to stun this Robin. I'm going to go ahead and heal my team a little bit, pop a Heavenly Agility because I am getting wrecked right now. I'm probably dead for that. I'm just going to keep trying to run away. I can't really help my team right now. I'm going to throw down a regular ward on our red buff just so we have that vision. We don't have our solo laner, and they did, which put us in a hard spot. I'm going to try to back really quick here so I can just go ahead and run on back to my team. I'm going to try to get a Spirit Robe going for the CCR. I don't have any CCR in this build right now, and they've got a very high CC team. CCR is called Crowd Control Reduction. You can have up to 40% of it. And it does exactly what it says it does, which is reduces the amount of time that you're CC'd by a % of time. You can have up to 40%. So the easiest, most straightforward version is if you get stunned for 1 second, but you have 40% CCR, you'll actually only get stunned for 0.6 seconds. Obviously against gods like Ymir and Hades, Fear, and all this stuff, you can see why it's important for me to get CCR for myself. It's definitely a little bit more selfish than just like getting an aura item for the team. The only aura item right now that I would honestly even consider is just some generic anti-heal for the Hades, but I'm hoping that we've kind of got the anti-heal elsewhere so that I can get away with just not having it. This is bad. That's a big fat Hades ult into a Scylla ult. I'm still alive right now. We actually got the Ymir. Jingwei's having a great time over and left right now. She's getting some good push in. I am once again going to back. I can't afford this tier 2 part of this item, which is fine. I'm going to get a sentry ward.
I can sneak with.
So anti-heal would be very valid this game, whether that's a contagion or a pestilence. Either way would be good against this team. Both are valid depending on what you wanted to do with the rest of your build. Like I said, I'm going to go into the Spirit Robe for a little bit of cooldown for spamming my abilities, but most importantly, that CCR. A fun item to keep in mind on Artio that I don't necessarily recommend you get every game, but that is something that's actually quite good, especially depending on the team comp. You rock. Is actually Lotus Crown. I don't know if they have Lotus Crown on here. They don't. Lotus Crown is an item that any god affected by your heal gains 20 increased physical and magical power. And Artio can proc that because of how her 1 works in druid form. So if you want to go a full aura like healing type build, you actually can on Artio. If you want to get a Thebes into you know, sovereignty, heart word type dealio, you will give your team all of those wonderful protections, and you can proc the protections from the Lotus Crown with your Druid 1. Ooh, this is a great fight for us right now. I'm just going to keep charging forward. I'm going to try to root both of these guys. I won't be able to. Hades dashes in. I'm going to try to... I can't do anything. I'm just waiting to stun him the second we get out of this. Stunning. I'm going to cripple him now. I'm heavenly agiling our team since it just came up. He's going to be able to dash, but I can charge in on this. We just can't quite kill him right now. This is definitely part of the problem of not having enough anti-heal. This is absolutely partially my fault. I do believe Osiris, though, is going into the Pestilence, which is great. That's a great build order from him. So hopefully that'll be the Pestilence, so I don't have to worry about it. And then we can have that anti-heal for the Hades, who is obviously a problem for us. This is actually a really sick play from Jingwei. We're doing the gold theory over here with our Osiris, and he did finish up the Pestilence, which is wonderful. And now we actually can do the gold fury, and he went over to do the portal to maximize our objective farm on the map. That was just a heads up Jingwei play from himself right there. So I'm gonna get the Spirit Robe. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna look at both teams' build orders. Make sure you're always looking at the build orders of both teams. So we've got anti-heal. We have plenty of anti-heal. That's wonderful for them. They're going a pretty tanky team. And most of their damage is coming from Hades. So I'm looking for magical defense right now more than anything. You can also click T to look at the top of their stats. Obviously, Hades is at the top of their stats. I'm going to make sure I get credit for this mid-wave, and I'm going to path deep over towards the Fire Giant. Put down that Sentry Ward. It is my responsibility to make sure, really the team responsibility for wards. I never want to put warding entirely on supports because everybody on your team should be buying wards. By the nature of only being able to buy 2 wards per person, it is everybody's job. But if you're the support and you see that a objective does not have a ward on it, you really need to start fixing that yourself. Make that a priority. So because I'm looking for CCR, because I'm looking for magical defense for myself to help out, I'm gonna go, try to get the stun off. That was a really good Robin 2 right there, actually, to avoid the stun. I'm chasing with my Osiris. Now I'm gonna go back and I'm on peeling duty. So right then I was kind of on initiation duty fighting. Now I'm gonna make sure that I'm peeling for my friend. I'm keeping an eye on Discordia and Rat on my mini map. I'm actually gonna charge in on this. We gotta be a little bit careful. I'm stunning this Woojer, putting out my cripple. We should go back to the Fire Giant, and we do have it warded, and I can tank this. So for my next item right now, what I am looking for is something that either gives magical defense to the team, so I could go a Heart Ward would be a good team item right now, or I could go something a little bit selfish, like an Oni Hunters, which is where I'm leaning into right now. Oni Hunters is going to give me that nice percentage damage reduction, just like Spirit Robe does, as well as the CCR, which I can stack with my Spirit Robe. So that way I've got the full 40% CCR. with the acquisition of Oni Hunter's Garb. Magical protections, health, a little bit of MP5. MP5 never hurt Artio with how often you're spamming your abilities. I don't really need cooldown. As you can see, I've got 30% cooldown with this build right now. I've got the cooldown boots, I've got the relic dagger, and I've got the spirit robe. So I'm basically capped on CDR. So right now I'm worried about other stats. This build, like I said, is a little bit more selfish, maybe than you would expect from a support. But Artio does fall in that hybrid level. Like I said, it's not full aggression like Ares, but it's also not full defense like a Geb. She does fall somewhere in the middle of those two places, which is why you kind of do a little bit supporty build, but a little bit aggressive. You have to play her a little aggressive situationally, but also defensive when you need to peel. We're gonna shove out right lane because there's a bunch of T2s. Our Discordia and our Jingwei need to be very careful right now. They are definitely in a very gankable spot. But we're gonna head down this right lane. As far as my defenses go, you can see that I've got 186 physical and 192 magical. Not bad at all, considering that I also have 3,000 HP plus the mitigation. Go ahead, reset right off of this, head over to the mid lane. As a support, shot calling is a lot on your shoulders. Not entirely on your shoulders. Most commonly, it's going to be the junglers and the supports that are shot calling. But that means that it is your job to try to pay attention. As a support as well, pay attention to your minimap. I've got my minimap pretty tiny up in the top right-hand corner. That works for me. That doesn't work for a lot of people. I'm just so used to playing Smite and looking up in the top right-hand corner that it's so natural to me. I probably do it every 5 seconds. It's probably hard to tell in between my twitching and looking at it, what's a twitch and what's looking at the map. But I promise I'm looking at it all the time. If you have a hard time seeing that, reminder that the map is movable in the UI. You can make it bigger. You can put it closer to the front of your screen. And if you want to as well, you can also make the map more transparent, which helps put it closer to the middle of your screen without blocking your vision on anything else. Gonna go right for Woojer right here. I'm keeping Hades inside of this cripple range to make sure that he can't dash for as long as possible. Heavenly agility, put a shell in my backline. I'm switching over to my bear form again. I'm gonna have to stun right there as soon as he comes out of his ultimate form to make sure I get that on him. Still ulti it down. I'm looking for a root onto Robin. Very nice kill. I'm still tanking this. Oh my goodness, Scylla almost just wrecked my entire backline. We gotta be very careful with this Scylla. That's your bees. I gotta watch out for being hit in this combo route. I'm trying to dive him. I couldn't make it, but we did force his Aegis, which is very nice. We've got creeps coming up multiple lanes right now. I'm gonna try to slow him down for my rat. Put the cripple. No, I didn't quite get the cripple off in time. We need to go. We cannot end this game right now, but we can probably maybe get another Phoenix. We've got a bunch of creeps over and right, so I'm grabbing them and bringing them up. Woojer is back up now as well. We do have to be very careful with the Scylla. Discordia is playing extremely aggressive. I'm going to reset this tower as soon as we can get some more creeps in here. There we go. The archers are officially in the range. So I'm going to focus back on this Phoenix. Scylla being dead is huge for us, but we need to back up. We don't have to completely back up. We can actually gank. I think we can actually rotate right around here. I think we can attack this. Yeah.
Gank.
Never mind.
Retreat.
They didn't come out aggressive as I thought they would. I was hoping they were going to chase, and if they were going to chase, we could group up as 4 and quickly pick somebody off, so that way we'd have a 4v3. But a couple of seconds pass, I realize it's a bad call, and so I call it off. That's a good example of making sure that never be afraid to call off a bad call. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with making a call, given some certain information that you have. Getting an update of information, even if it's just like 3 seconds later, you can have new information, and then calling off the play because it's no longer a good play. I'm gonna stick around this fire portal. I probably can't steal this, but I can probably be annoying enough to cause them some issues. As it turns out, I was right. I cannot get it. That is Ymir ulti down. That is Hades ulti down. This is a huge fight opportunity for us. We should absolutely be looking for this. I'm dashing in, shelling, keeping my boy alive. He's getting the heal. I'm throwing down the stun on the Hades right now. I'm going to be dashing right on through. I'm going to try to get deeper on this so we can keep fighting as they continue to try to run away. It looks like Scylla dashed away. Hades is going to go down, and we should be able to do the Fire Giant. Now, Osiris should be able to tank that fire giant, no problem. So I'm going to be on zoning duty. We've got 2 phoenixes down. Oh, no. I'm going to stun to give myself protections right there. Reminder that your stun gives you protections. So I quickly switched over to my bear form just to pop the stun to make sure that the crush didn't kill me. It wasn't close enough. Even without it, it wouldn't have been enough. But I didn't know that. So I wanted to make sure that I had enough protections to have the best chance at living. We're getting close to the end of the game, possibly for us. I'm actually not going to get my movement speed potion. I'm just gonna go ahead and get the red pot for the full CDR. I grabbed a Heartward because I'm still the most concerned about this Hades and Scylla damage. So now I'm going to provide some magical protections out to the team. Not to mention, I'm almost up to 300 protections myself. Once I factor in the 30 protections I'm going to get from the bear stun, I'm basically capped on magical protections. I'm going to switch over to my cripple. I started to use my root. I canceled out of it. That way I could make sure to get Scylla inside this root so she couldn't get away. 1 HP left. Bada bing, bada boom. There's the pickup right there on Scylla. Never feel bad about canceling your abilities early. I'm going to stun this Hades. I'm going to throw down the cripple, which doesn't matter because it's so much for the movement because his movement ability was already down. But don't forget, it reduces how much damage that they do. And obviously, he was their top damage dealer, so I want to reduce his protections as much as possible. And that, guys, is how we do our Artio guide. That's the type of build that you're looking to run. That's the type of gameplay that you're looking to utilize with some tips and tricks, of course, on her build order and how to use her abilities properly. Didn't even die that game. Almost like I used to play competitive support or something, right? Something like that. Something like that. GG's, friends. GG's. How much damage we end up putting out that game? We ended up doing 11,000 damage, which isn't bad, just from like a little support perspective compared to 6.